We are back. We do have sound again. Emily Kosiko started the best, biggest hope for Estonian women in today's competition. 4 years ago, top 23 in the middle distance final for her. So she has started already, and up on the starting line, we have Vegard Jarvis Vestergaard.
Han fra Norge, men løper for Canada.
33rd place in the long distance race. Good luck, Vegard.
Being best Canadian. 33rd.
Next from men, Amy Öberg. Amy Svensk, coming up with 4 minutes already.
Hello and welcome to the European Championships. Welcome back to the very, very green forest that we've got here in Estonia for the middle distance today. Sorry for the late start. There are some very, very heavy thunderstorms going on around the arena today, so we've been losing power intermittently on and off throughout, but now we are back though and ready to start this middle distance final. Of course, we've had women starting over the last hour and a half. Our current leader finished, I think, still Sandra Grosberger from Latvia, but we will be here ready to welcome the top runners in very soon. Of course, the top 20 in each heat qualified. Okay, let's have a look then at the map. Very, very varied, this map here for the women's course.
So we are in a different part compared to the long distance, and we start with a few shorter legs, and you should really use those legs to get familiar with the terrain and the mapping, because you can get a feeling about how good or bad the yellow parts or the green parts are. Then control 4 to 5, route choice, the first one here. And control 6, the TV split, first TV split. Then we get into a totally different area. It's much more tricky, it's much more detailed. It opens up a bit, especially at this point here at around 10 and 11. It's very beautiful for us down there. But then you have to be careful when you get back in this tricky and green area. And its visibility is not very good there, but the runnability is quite okay. So we are back second TV control at control 14, then 15, 16 and 17. Really tricky controls when you get into the green and you don't see anything at once. You get kind of contour blind there as soon as you enter the green area, and then straight back to the arena and to the finish.
Yeah, it's a really varied course. It's really got those different parts of the technicality, and I think we'll see a lot of mistakes, I think, as well, when people come through all the different sections and you have to change between the bits. Let's have a little highlight at some of the particular parts of this course. You can really get a sense of how green it is, and the visibility kind of varies with different types of vegetation that get in your way, including those fallen trees.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not as bad as it is here. Here you are in a kind of semi-open area just beside marsh. That's usually the worst bits of it. As soon as you come out of this semi-open area with this green restaurant, it's usually much better. You might see it here in the picture now. So here the runnability and the visibility gets much better. Often there's a big change in visibility when you come to these dotted vegetation borders. So that can be an indication of a change in visibility, because sometimes even if it's light green or dark green, it's hard to predict if it's good visibility or not.
It really is. This is a very interesting control.
Yeah, and it's hard to predict if it will keep as it is at the moment, because at the moment the red one is clearly better. But as longer we get into the competitions, of course there will be tracks, especially on the second part of the blue route when you get into this yellow area. You have to imagine that there is grass and it is up to your shoulders. It's really tight and it's not very good runnability, and especially you don't see where you put your feet, so that slows you really much down. It will be a big advantage for the late starters then, because they will track up. But I mean, it's not an unfair advantage, because they had the qualification. So if you're a late starter, you had a good race a few days ago in the qualification. This is very typical here for this part, this tricky part, this technical part. Visibility a little bit lower, but the green is actually quite good when it comes to the runnability. So it is tricky orienteering, but it's totally doable as long as you have contact with the map. Once you get off direction and you lose contact to the map, it's very, very difficult to relocate and get back without a big time loss.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of people at home will already have been looking at a lot of the GPS tracking, spotting some mistakes, people having to, bail out to vegetation boundaries and come back in again. And as you said, so we've got 60 runners here in this final. It was top 20 to qualify. Most of the names, especially in the women's, made it through. One big exception being Sweden's Caroline Olsen. And of course, those heat winners will be starting at the very end. So real big advantage from having won your heat, because it's just going to track up more and more and more as we really get towards these runners towards the end. And who do we want to be looking out for then?
Yeah, I mean, you named it before. We have the heat winners here. They managed quite similar terrain a few days ago in a very convincing manner. So it's, of course, the last starters, well, my feeling is that they feel more comfortable with this kind of terrain. Regarding the early starters, something I want just to throw in here as well is when we are talking about tracking up, I don't think it will matter in regarding the navigation. I don't think it will make it much easier, because usually where there is high grass, the orienteering part is not the difficulty, but it will make you faster because you don't have this. Yeah, you don't have to run through the grass and you see where you put your feet. So I think in this matter, it will be an advantage when it comes to the navigation. I don't think that it matters too much.
So this is our current leader then here on the picture, Mia Nittinen from Finland, who had caught up 2 minutes on Elena Ross, who didn't run the long distance. A really good, I mean, it seems to be suiting the Finns incredibly well. But still long times here. You can know we've got Vera Klemetinen, Ina Westerlund, who was our first starter. It's her first international race, first time representing Finland on the World Cup circuit. So we've really seen a lot of those athletes do very, very well. Around here, it seems to suit them incredibly well, but still 41.10. We saw long winning times for the long distance for the women's, definitely. Do you think we'll see longer than expected winning times here today as well?
Maybe we will be a bit above the 35 minutes, but I'm quite sure that, as we mentioned before, that it's getting faster and faster. And of course, I mean, the runners are getting faster and faster as well. So it's not only the terrain. So I think we get closer to the 35 minutes, but maybe we'll end up in 36 and a half, 37 minutes.
Okay, so here's some of our fastest women around the course so far, taking a look at how they've managed to do this.
And you can see now here, especially this one is interesting, because all of the fastest runners so far, they chose to go around there. And something that we noticed as well is when you cross the yellow area, it's usually very slow. But if you run just along the borders, then
especially that first bit on the way to 5,
yeah,
it's really
there,
good.
for example, but also in other places when you have these vegetation boundaries and you run along them, it's not as bad as when you cross it. So if you go around there, you get first the track, and then of course it's a bit more tracking up along the vegetation boundary as well.
Tiernan then into top 5 spots after the race. It is, we have had a few really, really heavy thunderstorms around here, so it is, it's still very warm, but it's now very wet out in the forest as well. So just the conditions, I think, all round going to be quite tricky as the course of this afternoon goes on, and we're expecting some more as well. But let's have a look then at split control number 1. This is control number 5 on the map, and we're looking out for Lena Strand, of course.
She had a good race in the long distance, so I think there should be some self-confidence, definitely.
Yeah, she was 5th in that long distance.
And this is the route choice you were talking about. So both of those runners, they went around to the left, as we mentioned before, followed this vegetation boundary, and now heading towards the first TV split. And here at this point, exactly this point, it's a total change in terrain, because it will be, the runnability gets much better, not only when it comes to the, of course, because you're not in the yellow area, but also when you're here in this green area, and the runnability is actually really good. And you can see the visibility is semi-good, and it's okay as long as you have the map contact, but as soon as you lose it, I mean, it's hard to relocate because you don't see further than 30 or 40 meters, and you really want to get the contours to relocate, and you don't get that because you don't see far enough. So it's very, very tough to get back once you're lost.
Yeah, really tough. So Strand into second place then, a minute 26 down on Sanna Fast, who's had a really quick start. And you could see the way she was just checking a compass bearing there on the way out. Let's see how she's done it.
And she must have done a mistake already in the beginning because the time difference here is already a minute. You can see that the tail is set to 1 minute. Good speed as well. Sanna Fast. That's what you talked about. And then in this last bit here, I think they will run quite equally because it will track up there from the vegetation boundary into the control. And here we see we're live with Lina Strand, but we see that Sanna Fast is doing a mistake. And that's what I said before. I mean, it's a bit misleading here because of the colors, but there are green parts, and once you get off track in these green parts, it's just so easy to get along into a parallel mistake in one of those depressions.
Now, I want to talk about Marion Aby because she had set some really quick times the first split, but was doing something similar to Sanna Fast and really struggling. I think round control 7-8, she had to bail out to the Estonian Open area and then go back in. And look how much time it's cost her. 14 minutes down on the lead. That's really, really gutting for her, considering her incredible start.
She's not even stopping running here, going directly back.
10 years ago in the legendary cross-country skiing.
Okay, let's take a look back at lots more runners in the forest here, more Swiss runners, and Grace Malloy from Great Britain as well.
Sarina Kiburtz on the way to the second TV split. So it's quite a similar part. The second TV split is very close to the first TV split, so the terrain, of course, looks similar here. And you can see just how difficult it is to see the contours around you. I mean, if you think back when you saw the map, it looks very clear because you have all these contours. But when you're out here, it's just they're blurred away. You don't see them anymore in the terrain, and you have to be very distinct with the direction and the navigation, and really just pick off all the features you want to see on the way to the control.
Yeah, it's really tough. You can just about, see the difference between the yellow and the green and the white as well. But it's still, there aren't very clear boundaries. When you're in the green, you're like, yeah, this is a bit greener. When you're in the white, you're like, yeah, this is a bit easier.
The terrain is very clear. It's not very difficult if you're just jogging.
No.
But the speed makes it difficult. And then if you're like a little bit of a risk towards one control, you have to be very careful. As I said, I mean, you have to run on the. Yeah, I mean,
you have to run on the boundary. You have to run fast, but without taking too many risks. Anyway,
you have to find the balance, the right balance.
Let's talk about Tove Alexanderson. Of course, 17 world champs titles, but she has not had really a great championship so far by her standards. She fought back so hard from made 7-8 minutes worth of mistakes in the long distance and fought back to take the silver medal, only 17 seconds down. As we see, Ingrid Lundenes here into the finish. And Tove Alexanderson was saying her focus wasn't really there.
Yeah, it was kind of strange, but I wasn't very impressed by her technical race and the long distance, and neither in the middle distance qualification. My feeling is a bit that she has just one gear, and that gear is full speed. And I mean, if you do that, you can succeed in quite many of the controls. But if you just not succeed in one of the controls, then you lose 2 or 3 minutes. And in the long distance, she did that 2 or 3 times, and she did that twice in the qualification as well. So let's see if she can get the focus back today.
So Eveli Karsaku here, one of the Estonians running on some home terrain, had a really good start to control number 4, but was just not very confident, I think, on her. Just when she entered the forest into this control number 6, where we get the time split, she's still in the lead, still looking very good though.
And it's very interesting with the Estonian runners. Many of them, they did a very good qualification, and then they didn't start for the long distance. And my feeling is that. I mean, I heard that they all struggled with some injuries they had earlier, so they didn't want to take any risk. Because, as we mentioned before, This race, you get a double advantage if you are a late starter, or if you did a good qualification, you're a late starter, you get both the speed and some of the navigation. And here in the GPS, we see that Sanna Fast she was really fast in the first part, but once this change in terrain came, she wasn't really ready to adapt the orienteering technique.
Yeah, mistakes there to number 9. We also saw a little bit of mistake for Serena Kiberts as well. So, but Nittinen looks a lot cleaner around that bit. I think that's really what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to be able to work with all these different parts of the terrain. As we're behind Victoria Heistad Bjornstad, who I maybe would have said in the past more of a sprinter, but still, pretty decent in the forest as well. And a lot of the orienteers, of course, will have been preparing so much for sprint this year that I'm sure all the forest-only orienteers will be like, finally some forest races on the international scene, as Bjornstad takes the new leading time there. Incredible stuff. And I think some of maybe the all-rounders who are preparing a lot for the sprint would have found the long distance a long way a couple of days ago. But let's take Cecilia Friberg-Klusner into the finish. The Dane, I think, had a reasonably decent start, but then has dropped time, certainly as well, maybe in the second half, where you're just can lose contact very, very easily with the map.
Had quite a good race in the long distance as well, ended up in 11th position. Just 1 month earlier, she was not selected for the World Championship, so it seems that she really got back some of the shape, or maybe she had also additionally had a bit more time to prepare for the forest. So, but a good race in the long distance.
So let's have another look then at the standings at the finish. Mia Nittinen from Finland, still the leader at this point. 41 minutes and 10 seconds. She came into the finish alongside Elena Ross from Switzerland. So those two still out and out in the lead at the moment. And we've got some big gaps at this point where we've seen, I think, a lot of mistakes. It's going to be very, very interesting to just be looking at all the GPS, maybe comparing all the runners at the end and seeing where people are losing some time, because certainly some of the early runners we saw maybe going straight from 4 to 5 was not a good decision. But let's head back to the finish where Maria Laursen is heading out. She had a pretty good World Championships in 2021 in the Czech Republic, with 7th in the long and 11th in the middle distance. And she is definitely one of these forest orienteers who's been waiting for the forest and the terrain to come back. And I know she was 13th in the long distance, so she'll be wanting to improve on that one as well, I'm sure.
Here you get a view over this open area just after the route choice option, and you just see how bushy it is, and it's not, the vegetation is not up to your knees, it's really up to your shoulders.
Yeah. And it makes it so hard to see the ground, because obviously this is a felled area. You've got the dips and the lumps that come with a felled area. And you just can't see them.
And you have some wood lying on the ground as well, which makes it hard to have coordination through the terrain.
So Lisa Risby here, another strong forest runner, 4th in the long and 6th in the middle distance at those World Champs in 2021. Didn't quite perform as well in the long distance. She was 23rd, but she's going to want to try and, I think, improve on that. She's got strong forest form and, of course, qualified well to be starting this late in the start list. But we're looking for Sabina Hausfried here as we look across this, and it's all sorts of stuff in here. There's kind of young trees, there's some young conifer trees, kind of pine trees, there's nettles, there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's just concentrated hell.
Yeah, yes. And it's not much, it's not really much better going through the forest at this point. And towards the right-hand part of this camera, there are some, as we said before, areas between the forest and the open where it's a bit more runnable. There's some tracks, but no. And you can see, actually, this control number 5, you can see the feature that it's on from quite a long way away, especially if you've approached it from the north. It's not very technically difficult, as we're on this camera is on the hill to the east of the control. You can see the hill that the control is on from, I'd say, 300 meters away, so I'm not sure why you should be looking around like that.
As you can see here, it's hard to see the control until you're really up close to the feature there.
You can see the feature from quite way back, and then you get close to it, and then suddenly everything's kind of lost in amongst the vegetation. But we'll get Sabina Halster's time when she gets to control number 5, but just...
I'm not really sure why she's reading the map so carefully here. She just has to go into this more open, or back into the forest, to this new area.
Yeah, she certainly hasn't taken that line as quickly as we saw some of the others, really, have we? And you can see she's already 2 minutes down, and look at the time. Look at how much time she's lost from control 4, which was plus 1 minute, now to plus more than 2 minutes. And for me, she just doesn't look confident here.
No, I think she must have lost time on the route choice as well. We saw her coming quite straight to the control, which indicates that she went all the way through this semi-open area. And as we know from earlier runners, it's almost 1 minute slower. And now she's off direction, and that's a really difficult task now. That's what we were talking about before. You have seen the men, they have the same control, so
I think when you leave that control, it's very easy to go left of the red line, where a lot of the routes have gone. You really have to kind of correct that and do a little banana shape to go back round to the...
You have to be very careful, because it's so convenient to just follow the easiest way when it comes to the runnability, the easiest way. But then you have, of course, to correct back to get the right direction.
Another Swede here who is very happy, I'm sure, that the... forest races are back, Joanna Oberg, and she had a really strong finish at the end of the long distance a couple of days ago to take 6th spot, top six spot, incredible stuff. And she's got good consistent forest form as well, with 10th and 12th in WOC 2021.
And here we see Lina Strand, exactly that. I mean, she was really on direction. She was very close to the control, and it's the same control where Mario Näbi had problems before. Visibility low. Now she's back at control 7, getting some help there to relocate. But otherwise, I mean, once you're just kind of moving around in this green area, it's hopeless to get back. It's so hard. Everything looks the same, and you don't get enough information into your view to really relocate. You're always interpreting the terrain, but you never can just get it down to one place where you could be. You always find like 2 or 3 places where it could be that you are. I mean, look around here. It's hard to get a glimpse of the terrain more than 30 meters away.
Yeah, you can see, just about the next feature, but you definitely can't see any more than that when you're out here. And I think it's what we've been talking about. You've got to have the right balance of map contact, speed, everything. If you go too fast, you're going to make mistakes like that. And that ultimately, that's Lina Strand's race gone, because that was too big a mistake for me. Serena Kibert has fought back, I think, here to take that current 2nd spot there, 24 seconds behind Nittinen. So we saw, I think there was a mistake, control 7 for Kibert there, and really worked hard to make that afterwards. I think in a group there with Grace Malloy and Vendula Horchichkova, so she caught up Malloy by 2 minutes and caught up Horchichkova by 3. And what do we have to say then about Venla Harju, the long distance champion from a couple of days ago? And I would almost have said she is better at a middle distance. She's got bronze at the World Championships in 2017 in Estonia, of course, and 2019 as well. And we know the Finns have been doing incredibly well on this terrain. It's similar to things that they're used to. So hopefully she'll have recovered very well from the long distance to be able to take that. And let's have a look at Sanna Fast. What has she been able to do? We saw her leading round some of the earlier parts of this course, and it looks like it's going to be close with Nittinen to be able to take a new fastest time then here.
But at the second TV control, she was more than 1.5 minutes behind Niitinen. So she had a good finish again today.
I think Sanna Fast is living up to her name. She has got really high speed, made, I think, a few mistakes out there in the southern part of the map, but she's managed to make up with it with very high speed, and she is not happy with that. I think she knows that could have been so much better. It is a new leading time, but it could have been much more.
I mean, we have seen that she had a great start into the race all the way to until the route choice, and then in the beginning of the second part she had big problems getting along with this new kind of terrain and new kind of technique you have to use in this greener, or I mean, I don't know if you should call it greener part, but in the part where the visibility is lower at least.
And it's so interesting about orienteering. You can have a great result position wise, but if you don't feel like you've had a good run, it can feel like the worst possible thing. But let's go back to the start. We've only got 3 starters left, so our 3 heat winners. Andrina Benjaminsen is next up. She is the silver medalist in the middle distance at the World Championships in Czech Republic. She did make a few mistakes, especially on the short controls a couple of days ago in the long distance, but what a strong forest runner she is, and she could be one of the favourites. Let's have a look then here.
Yeah, this is one of the controls. I mean, you come from the direction there, and then you get to this green area, and just to jump over into this green, you lose all of the confidence. It's really something different. You don't see anything around you, and it's just, you have to go after feeling a lot there. And it's only a few meters, but it's enough to just enough to lose self-confidence if you're a little bit off direction.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it's really, really horrible, in particularly that bit, controls 16, 17. And I think that's where we saw Sanna Fast was kind of behind at that point. She managed to overtake. But here is somebody who seems to have done a lot better in this southern part where other people have made mistakes. Karsaku is looking fantastic. And she was the top qualified Estonian, of course, in the women's.
And of course, I mean, you have been talking about that before. We had this sprint World Championships, which made that there was almost no one training forest orienteering for about a year. And then going into a terrain that's so special within 1 month is really difficult. And then, of course, the advantage of running on home soil is much bigger, so they know exactly how to run in this kind of terrain. They know how to handle this difficulty with bad visibility, runnability, how to adapt when there's a change in terrain, and you can see that here very clearly.
So Marika Taney, bronze medalist in the long. She one of the big favourites for today's race. She is also the defending champion. Of course, the last middle distance we ran at European Champs was way back in 2018. So, but she has got real class, especially I think over this middle distance as well. And she is someone who will race very well.
And here you can see the difference. That's exactly what we were talking about. If you go through this green, it's just a big risk that you will lose time because the runnability or the speed, you just can't get up in speed. And you see that Karsaku was running all the way around, and then also, as we mentioned before, along this vegetation boundaries, it's much better to run because usually, I mean, you have to imagine those are cat areas from the beginning, so the machines, they were all driving along these boundaries, and it makes that there's some kind of a track. And in my opinion, people should notice that because it's very obvious, and you should kind of take this into your route choice decision that along the vegetation boundaries, it's often quite good to run. But this will cost her about a minute at least. Yeah,
if not more. Let's have the check at the times when she gets to the next control. That's when we'll really, really see it. But that's a surprise for me that Alexanderson has gone in that direction and taken that choice, especially as a later starter when you think it might track up a lot more. For me, the men's control is that you'll see that they also have a similar route. It makes maybe more sense to go straight. Well, I don't know, but the women's, you want to go around on that path. And so at control 4, she was +7, so already slower than the lead. And let's see how much time she loses between controls 4 and 6.
We can really compare this. It's about 50 seconds she loses here, maybe a bit more because I would expect if they would run the same route that Alexanderson would be a little bit faster than Kasiku.
So Alexanderson has really not had it all her way, I think, in these European Champs.
But if you
so
look
far.
at the speed she had in the long distance, this race is far from over for her.
Yeah,
I mean, she came back from like almost 7-8 minutes mistake. Of course, this race here is much shorter, but still, I mean, 1 minute is doable for Tove Alexanderson in a physical shape as she is at the moment.
Yeah, but will she get the balance right of speed and accuracy? That is really going to be what's going to show everything in this race. If you manage to get it right with the speed and the accuracy, then you're going to do a good job. All right, Simona Abersold here is the final starter today. She had an absolute mare just on one control in that long distance, ending up with 14th. She wasn't happy. And very interestingly, Simona Abersold came to Estonia straight after the World Championships. Didn't really get a strong feeling about her ability there. Went off to the World Games in the US, came back for some more training here in Estonia. So she's really, she takes this incredibly seriously. She's putting in a lot of time and a lot of many days away from home to try and do as well as she can on this terrain.
Here we have a comparison between Kasiku and Benjaminsen, and you can see just a little bit smarter approach there, using this depression all the way up, the re-entrant all the way up to the control. And it just makes it a little bit easier. I mean, both of them have seen this small tower there and then used the hill, but then Benjaminsen wasn't as consequent in her approach, drifting too much to the right. And in my opinion, she should just go down to this small depression and then use the re-entrant up, because it's a very clear line all the way to the control.
I think the visibility makes it so difficult to see the features, but also so difficult to stay on your compass bearing, that you have to simplify, I think, so much and maybe not orienteer as you would used to in order to be sure of yourself where you are.
But this makes it very important that as soon, I mean, I'm quite sure that she planned to see that depression and the re-entrant. And if you don't see it, then everything, you should stop immediately, because this is a really warning sign that you have to be very careful now. And I mean, she got even the line for the distance because of this semi-open area just behind the control, so even there, for me, it's just a sign she's not 100% having map contact at that point.
So that was Lisa Risby we saw through there at that split. I don't know if we're going to be able to catch her up at the next control, number 6, to see how she's getting on. Here she is into this control. A little bit of a different approach as compared to what we've seen from the others, but very smooth out and good direction into the 7th.
And we have many Swedish runners there from position 2 to 5. All of them from Sweden. And here again we're with Kasiku and Alexanderson, and it's kind of the same thing that happened to Lina Strand before, just not exactly the right direction out from the control, leading her down this depression a bit too much to the left. And then, I mean, she managed now to get back because I think she saw those 2 depressions and kind of could relocate. So she had an idea about, okay, I'm not on direction, so I have to be a bit too far to the left. But if she would not have had that feeling, it would have it would have ended in a bigger mistake.
Yeah, she's trying to minimize her mistakes there. We see Finstrolova in towards the finish, but 5 minutes down for the athlete from the Czech Republic. There were 8 Czechs managed to qualify for the final. Pretty good showing for them. And into 12th place though currently. Still some big gaps. Is this Sabina Hausrud?
I think so. Yes, indeed. Towards TV split 2.
I wonder if you can see there's maybe some tracks in here,
yeah,
but it's...
I mean, you can see that there have been other runners before at that point, but it's not a clear line you just can follow, so you still have to be navigating very exactly in this part. But she lost 3.5 minutes here into 5th position.
Yeah, and we saw she's not lost as much time maybe in that second part, but we saw her just being incredibly careful on the way through the first split.
And now we see that the three of them quite equal when it comes to the running time this part, and splitting up in 3 different options. So let's see. But my feeling is that Katherine, I mean, you can see the speed she can build up in this section. It's very good, and she's not taking any risk. I mean, Harju is running over a green area there, and will then enter another green area, which she doesn't really know how good it is. Of course, in the second part there, it's okay, runnability, but she can't really know that on beforehand. So in my opinion, Katherine is choosing very wisely there, not taking any risk on a route that you can't lose. Even if it's faster straight, you can't lose a lot of time there. And yeah, I mean, she will... I think both the others will be much slower. You can see here she's running with around 10, 11 kilometers per hour, and the others are like half of the speed.
Yeah.
And it's not even much. I mean, it's a little bit shorter distance-wise, the one to the south, Harju, but it's not that much shorter.
No, and then you've got maybe a less distinct entrance then into the control.
I mean, you get help of this vegetation boundary, definitely. Usually see them very clearly. So I don't think the way to the control will be the problem, but it's just...
So we were just seeing her fantastic route then to number 5, Eveli Kasiku in the background there, has had a fantastic run. We saw her do really well in the section towards the white. I think she's still leading in our second split, and she's caught up some even more time on Sanafat. This is a fantastic run from the Estonian, putting it right just when it matters here on home soil. This is a brilliant, brilliant run from Eveli Kasiku. She knows how to work this. She got a been preparing for many years, and then it got delayed 2 years, this European Champs, and I wonder where she will end up.
This will be so interesting to see, because I think this can be a medal.
Me too.
I mean, the race was so good. She executed it very well. You could feel that she has an idea about how to tackle this terrain. And as you mentioned, I mean, it's one thing to have an advantage running on home soil, but she did a very good performance in the qualification. Yeah. And again, then she kind of jumped over the long distance in order to be better here, and that builds up even more pressure, because then you only have 2 races, one individual race here, and she did very, very well. I hope for the home crowd here that she will end up high up the result list.
I think she really will. Let's have a little look. You can see Abersold starting well. We haven't really seen her through the first split yet. Really
and you
high
can also
speed
see that the speed from the other runners. I mean, it's Abersold is definitely running faster than Kasiku, but Kasiku, with a few good decisions here, just with micro route choices, keeps up in the leading group here, even in front of Alexanderson and Taney. But good start for Abersold so far.
Yeah, I think that time from Kasiku could be really well. Oh, Joanna O'Barry is looking around. This is control 5, and it is easy to see the feature from like 200 meters away, but once you get in amongst all of this rubbish, then it's so hard to see. Even though there's a couple of like advertising boards around there, she just needs to go a little bit further along, because you can't really see the top of that hill when you're down in the depression.
Yeah, but she should really get. I mean, you can see that there is a hill. She should be able to go on the top of the hill, and
you should.
She shouldn't be down the hill looking for the control, but maybe she went up a little bit and didn't see the control. And I mean, there's a stone as well. If you kind of just take a short glimpse on the map, you could think that the stone is the control. Maybe she was even up to this stone and then going back again when the control wasn't there. But I mean,
I think she spotted
unnecessary. Now she has it.
Whoa, maybe.
You can see there's almost. Yeah, I mean,
she's not even
there.
To the next control.
Yeah, so she lost a lot of time here.
You can definitely see other controls, maybe control 16. You'll have the same position. You can be so close to it. But here's Venla Harju.
Yeah, on the way to the first TV split. So
remember, we saw her going to the south route to control number 5.
And she is off the pace from Kasiko.
So she was 25 seconds down at control number 4.
So she lost 45 seconds, so maybe a little bit better than compared to if you go straight.
Yeah.
But still, it's not as good as the option around. And you can also see that she is together now with Jana Sikova. She also passed Johanna Öberg. You see the different route choices. Abersold now also going on the good route. This is a really good start for Simone Abersold. She had the fastest kilometer pace in the qualification of all the heats, so she should have kind of good confidence for the middle distance, but still she was struggling a little bit because she never got a good feeling, and I think this is exactly the thing you have to overcome, because no one will have a good feeling here. You get stuck at one point and then you think no one else gets stuck, but everyone gets stuck at one point. So it's
okay. Lena Strand into the finish here. It's not been a good day for her out in the forest. We saw a big miss to control number 6, I think, and a few misses around there, 6, 7, 8. It's not been her day at all. And she finishes 10 minutes down. It's been a very tough day in the forest. I want to quickly go back to Simone Abersold because she's missing a championship title. She has won one World Cup race. That was the long distance in Idrefjell. But such as the dominance has been of Tove Alexandersson, she's not won on the European Championships or the World Championships. So it's one that she really, really wants to add to her list. I know that for sure. Hanna Wisniewska into the finish for Poland, but she only started 2 minutes behind Lena Strand. I think it's similarly a tough day in the forest for the pole. And this is, we've got big gaps here. If you're going to do well here, you really will have done well at this. It's a proper championship course.
Yeah, but it's also, never give up fighting, because you can do a 2-minute mistake. Of course, maybe your chance to win the race will be away then, but you still can get a very good result. And usually, you have, as a nation, you have 8 starting position here. So usually it's very hard to get the top 20. If you compare the European Champs and the World Championships, usually it's harder to win the World Championships, of course, but it's harder to get the top 20 at the European Championships. But if it's like this, maybe if you keep on fighting and don't give up, you can reach a top 20 here with 2 or 3 minutes mistake. And we saw a small mistake here by Andrine Benjaminsen. Will be interesting to see what route she chose to this control and what time she will have at this first TV split. Here she is.
Yeah, here she is. We saw, remember that little miss to control number 1, just being too far to the right. And look, you can see she was already 1:46 down at control number 4.
My feeling
and
is
lost
that
a bit more time.
she went straight as well, because she will keep on losing time.
You can just see how much she's looking around in the terrain there. You can't really see anything here.
She also struggled before with a COVID infection just before.
Oh, okay. Abersold will have had some great feedback. She's just caught up and overtaken the defending champion and bronze medalist from the long distance, Marika Taney. So Simona Abersold is still moving fantastically through here, but now everything changes.
Yeah,
as we
exactly.
head into this
We have seen many runners getting along with the course very well in this first part, but the difficulty now is to change and adapt to the new kind of terrain here, and it will be interesting to see. I think the first control is still quite easy, quite open. Visibility is good.
It's a nice route into the control.
Yeah, and it's quite a clear object where the control is located. But then control 7 and 8 will be very decisive here.
This isn't Alexandersson. I think this is Lisa Risby.
Yes, I think so too.
So Alexandersson certainly is behind, but this is Lisa Risby, and our current leader at this point, Eveli Karsaku, who is our leader in the finish as well. So on her way to control number 14 then. And just looking to her right to see, is that Maria Olausson, I think, in that group as well. So there's a group of Lisa Risby, Tove Alexandersson and Maria Olausson. But Risby is actually the best in this group. Those 3 all started together. So Risby, if she's caught up Alexandersson, that's 4-minute gap between those 2 runners. But the time is ticking by to that of Karsaku, but she gets that control. And a new leader then, Lisa Risby. And I think she wasn't the leader at the first split, was she? So or she was behind Karsaku.
She was
so
1 minute and 3 seconds behind Simona Abersold. But I didn't see Tove Alexandersson in this group, so we're still waiting for Alexandersson to the second TV control. And here they are, Abersold and Taini.
And now the two of them may be working together. So Abersold 39 seconds then ahead of Eveli Karsaku, who's still our leader at the finish, but looking great for the Estonian.
Yeah, and of course now she has a big advantage. She has Marika Taini with her as well. I mean, Eveli Karsaku had to do all the work alone, and I mean it's not really about getting help, building up the speed, or getting like along. But if you're two runners, you have 4 eyes, and 4 eyes see more in green areas than 2 eyes do.
They really do. They'll be paying a lot of attention to each other. But yeah, I still think we haven't seen Tove Alexandersson through that split time. So that means Lisa Risby has caught up and overtaken Alexandersson. So yeah, very, very tricky orienteering out there, and even that to the gap, you know, the top 20 within over 3 minutes spread just to that control number 6. Of course, some of those in there will have taken the more direct route choice. Here's Alexandersson.
And well, this is not a good race so far.
So this is her control 13,
yeah,
I think.
So she has to go all the way to the next control. Maybe 30 seconds left, 40 seconds, and it's a big disadvantage for her.
I really want to see what has happened with the GPS tracking for Alexandersson, because we saw her make a mistake at number 8, but there must have been some more in there, because she can't be this far down with
some hesitation here as well. I mean, it's really, yeah, but you could see that she stopped in the right moment. She was off direction a little bit and just stopped and adapted direction, corrected it. So now running down a depression here, up again. So here we have her. But this is, I mean, that's, yeah, her race. I think it's fair to say that she has no chance to win this race.
Yes, you'd have to have a miracle to be able to catch up. Let's have a look at what happens. So
and here, actually, the visibility is really good compared to the rest. But you have to be careful because the terrain is so, it's open, but it's turning. So once you get off, it's very likely to do parallel mistakes. So that's what happens here. She gets up there a bit too far to the slope, and then it's so hard to relocate because everything looks the same, even though the visibility is good. And yeah, it's kind of typical because it opens up so much. You think that you now finally get some time to relax and to kind of recover from the brain work you were doing before, and then that's a big trap, because once, I mean, it's not difficult there, but it gets very difficult once you have to relocate.
Yeah, absolutely. Tona Begarudlia in here.
Yeah, quite a good race for her. Maybe a chance for the 3rd position.
Yeah, really good here. Those 3 minutes down.
She was 28th in the long distance just 2 days ago.
And it's her 3rd World Cup round after running in Idre in Sweden and in Italy as well, World Cup final last year. So not loads of experience for the Norwegian, but really good. She's going to go into the bronze medal position. Strong second half of the course, I think, there from her.
There are only, let's say 11 runners left after her. So, I mean, she's top 15 with, at least top 15 with 3.5 minutes behind. So that's still, I mean, it's quite likely that she will end up in top 10.
Yeah.
With 3.5 minutes. So that's definitely a very good run.
A recap then of those standings at the finish. Eveli Karsaku is still our leader, and especially now we've had all of the runners through our first bit control, her time is looking really, really good. Maybe Abersold will contend, but this is looking pretty exceptional for this.
I mean, it's not only the time, it's only how she did the orienteering. We didn't see any hesitation. Of course, we didn't have the GPS from the very end, but it looked very good here in this part. And here we have the comparison. How are you coming from the west here to this control. Abersold still going strong towards control 7 and 8. That's the control you mentioned. It's very important to get into this part here with good control taking to 7 and 8. It looks good to 9 as well, even though the GPS is not very accurate. So it looks very good. And I mean, you can't see any hesitation by Abersold. She's glued to the line here towards control 10 as well. But of course, I mean, we have seen it before. Tove Alexandersson did a mistake there. You have to be careful all the time.
Yep, she's in a good position now, but there's still a lot of controls still to come, and you never know what's going to happen, especially as the terrain changes. You get a little bit of kind of blueberries out here, and it looks incredibly different. The visibility suddenly opens up, but the features are just that little bit different as well.
We're waiting for maybe Jalava. Yes, indeed. Had a good long distance 2 days ago.
Yeah, 12th in that long distance.
Yeah.
It's only a second World Cup round, and there have been a few kind of new names on the from Team Finland specifically who seem to be more forest specialized, and they're doing incredibly well.
And of course,
so
I
great
mean,
to see.
here you have the possibility to have 8 runners at the starting line, not as at the World Championships. So we have more runners, opens up a bit more for the ones having good shape. But I mean, she performed very well 2 days ago, and I mean, this is quite okay as well. Maybe not as good as the long distance, but still.
It'll be a top 10 finish here, and we know there's still lots of drama out in the forest behind her, so really strong. And of course, I wonder, you know, has there been an impact of their new head coach, Thierry Georgiou, moving from Sweden to Finland to be able to coach them, and he knows how to do a middle distance.
Yeah, and he won it 2017 in quite similar terrain, so of course his advice and tips, they are very valuable here. But I mean, she will end up in top 20 today as well. And Jalava. And we're back with Johanna Öberg. She did a big mistake, as we saw that too just before the first TV split. Otherwise, I think the race maybe quite okay. 3.5 minutes behind so far.
Yeah, if you think 3.5 minutes down here and you look towards the finish and you think 3.5 minutes, that's kind of actually a top 5 position. So
yeah, but I mean, we have seen quite a big mistake before. So beside that, her race must have been okay at least. But of course, I mean, it won't. I mean, she won't be very satisfied because it's a mistake. That's really. I mean, you don't have to do this mistake. It was one of the easier controls. Here we are with Venla Harju, winner from the long distance.
Yep, she started 2 minutes behind Johanna Öberg, so she is actually, after her route choice to control 5, it's not looking too bad here.
Yeah, but it's 2 minutes behind.
But is there a medal contention? I don't know. Let's have a look at.
Risby and
this is a
Kasiko.
tough control, number 16, but they seem to be doing okay.
Very tight, and you can see that just Kasiko is a bit more experienced here, and Risby now is totally off direction. And this section here is very, very different to all the greens you have seen before. It's a different kind of green. It's really even more bushy, and it's.
I mean, you can't see like 2 meters in this.
It's leaf. You get just leaves in your face from all directions, and
so the green at 15 is like much more mature trees, and you can kind of you have a decent
trees,
visibility,
so
and they're much younger trees at number 16, and I mean you can't see 2 meters.
And we get back with Abersold. Sometimes it's not always a good sign when you get someone into the GPS here. We know that Kasiko did a good race back here. A little bit off direction, maybe Abersold. Maybe she gets along with it now again. There's the men's control. Helped her to relocate, maybe.
Just not very direct out of 11.
But maybe she just took the back of one of the men's runner.
Maybe. Yeah, there's a men's control now.
Even though they come from the other direction to this control. small mistake, maybe, I mean, 15, 20 seconds.
But this big re-entrant before the control
Yeah, of
with
course.
the depressions in it is so obvious.
Yeah, but it gives you an indication about the distance. But if you're a little bit off direction, it doesn't really help you to like get on track with direction again, if you don't double check it, of course. You can see Harju as well going quite far up the hill there. But of course, a bit avoiding she wanted to get out of the green area just after control 11 directly, and then not really on direction after that. Teini, still a good race here.
And where's Absol? Because the two of them were running together.
Yeah, that's true.
So, oh, there they are. They're still running together. So, let's see. This is control course number 13.
But she has to be careful here to not lose the back, because as soon as they go into the green area, I think that Teini might disappear here. See that you can glimpse her there in front. But soon they will go into a very, very tight area.
Yeah, so she was 1 minute 24 ahead, and that time lost maybe with the not as quite clear direction to control number 12. But of course, Risby is current leader at this point, and we just saw did we see the huge mistake from her?
Here's Teini. And let's see. I mean, if they go into this green area here, those 10 seconds here, that can be too much to see her.
Okay, Absol at the finish. She is fighting hard, but I know she will be hugely disappointed with this run. She's managed to catch, I think, some of the time back, but I mean, the number of controls I've written down here that she's made mistakes on. Route choice to number 5, first of all, a miss to control number 8, a really big time loss at control number 12, where she nearly went back all the way to number 11. Alexanderson, it is not her championships at all. She will be absolutely gutted with that, and
she won't even be in the top 10 here.
No, she will be outside the top 10. She is just struggling so much, I think, with this terrain, and just hasn't found the right way to orienteer here.
It's not really something that suits her so well, because as I mentioned at the beginning, she likes to go full speed, and she likes really to be on this line, on this border between. She's really looking for the risk of just don't go over the border to be too fast to navigate, and here it's often so hard to feel that border, so it's so easy to go over it.
She struggled a lot in the middle distance in Latvia, and it's kind of similar type of green, even if it's not the same contours, that she really struggled with for me.
Inga Dambe, 45-year-old, was already at the World Championships back in 2001, so very experienced. She was also running, I mean, the European Champs in Estonia back in 2006. She was running the World Championships in Estonia back in 2017. Now her third championships here. Best result in Estonia in the 11th place, 2017. Had a good qualification, really good qualification, but here in the final, maybe some mistakes.
And I think at the finish we're also waiting for Lisa Risby. Be interesting, you know, she was second at the intermediate control. I think she was there just in picture here. She is. So at the second intermediate control, it was only Simona Absol, who was faster than her. But we saw that big mess, the big miss at control number 17, and it was that, I think, has pushed her 3 minutes down. You can see the gap going from controls 14 to 19.
And I mean, with Risby that far behind, we can see it's more or less only a fight between Absol and Kaseko now.
I think you're right.
So I would say it will be a medal here for Estonia. Question is, will it be gold or will it be silver?
The chances are getting more and more likely. Of course, Marika Teini is there with Simona Absol as well, so, you know, looking maybe for a medal for her. But Risby equal fourth there. Such a shame. She had such a great run.
Yeah, I can see that from her reaction.
And Olausen just maybe they were in that mess together, but not happy happy there. Nearly those moments, and this is what happened. But we're live with Abersold now.
She's a big advantage here, more than a minute getting into this area, and here it's quite tricky because, I mean, from this direction it's okay. You can fall down into this depression, to this yellow kind of area, and then take the control from there. And now we have to leave the control through thick green bits here. And then you will see this vegetation border, and it will open up a little bit. I mean, the trees are not as high, it's not as dense, but it's a different kind of green, and it's still tricky to see. And I think she's very close there, but might look for a good way to get out.
I think you can be genuinely like 2 meters away from the control there at 16 and not see it. It's so close, but I think she's good.
I think that it's a good thing to go to this yellow stripe there now, follow it a little bit to the north, just to get the vegetation border, to be very sure of where you are here. And of course, I mean, you can also see the vegetation border behind control 17. So you shouldn't lose more than 30 seconds on this control, but it's hard to get. It's really hard to see anything when you get in there. So you can get really nervous approaching that control.
For me, it looks like the medals will be on this screen. We've got Abersold, Karsaku and Taney, and those are the ones I think we're going to be.
Taney and Abersold are probably together still.
We can't see what she's doing.
I don't think she's sleeping.
No, I don't. I think she's hiding. I think. I wish we could see what her face is like there, because this looks really good for a medal.
And now
I'm sure she's going to be watching what's going on.
Abersold was exactly doing what I said, maybe not following the yellow part, but having the yellow part as this vegetation border. So now she should be. It should be clear for her where she is.
And I think she can't believe it, can she?
She just realized that she will win
Estonians
a
were
medal
hoping
here.
for the men, and now Eveli Karsaku has done the magic. This wonder.
Yeah, when you come into the finish and you go, this is the lead, but you know there's so many fantastic women out there. You don't know what's going to be, but this looks really strong for a medal. Venla Harju and Johanna Oberi both in here, ready, fighting their way towards the finish. I think it's Teresa Yanashikova there as well, but Venla Harju is the best of these 3 runners in the picture. But you can see she is behind Karsaku. Harju, I think, will be out of the medals here as well after her win in the long distance. And it was the route choice for Control 5 that really lost the time, I think, for me. Maybe some small
maybe
mistakes as
there's
well.
a chance if Marika Taney is not really fast enough, or if there's a mistake by Abersold and Taney. But otherwise it will be tough for them.
And Johanna Oberi goes into 4th there at that point as well. So really good, strong finish for her as well on this course.
But now it's all about Simona Abersold and Eveli Karsaku.
Oh, she really can't believe it here. I mean, what a dream to pick up a medal on this home soil, especially after these champs are delayed for 2 years. I know she'll have put so much into this, but yeah,
but
still looks no problem
but you
for
can
Abersold.
see that Abersold lost time here, maybe 20, 30 seconds. It's 1 minute left, but I mean, the coming controls, they're not very difficult. It's more about Harju and Taney, and you can see there a mistake. Maybe that Abersold did the same mistake. We don't know if that. No, I don't think so.
So we're live
so now
with Taney.
It looks as if Harju could take a medal.
So the 2 of them must have split up, Taney and Abersold, and Abersold is already half the way to number 18, and Taney must have lost her back and made a mistake then in that green. So Taney out of the medals.
So I think
looking good for Harju. So Abersold, Karsaku, Harju looks
very much like this. Well, I don't think that you, or not you, but Simona Abersold will lose 18 seconds on, or 1 minute on control 18, because even though you miss it, I mean, it's if you just would have this control isolated, of course you could miss it if you approach it straight ahead, but you have the path to the left, and it's so easy to just go out and relocate. And then control 19 is really easy, and control 20, I mean, it's mostly transportation back to the finish.
But Eveli Kasuku is going to be still, I think, have some nervous few seconds, a few minutes before we see Abersold into the finish, because anything can happen at the end, really. And
but
it's quite.
I think this will be the first gold medal for Simone Abersold.
It will. First at a World or European Championships. Feels like she's been waiting for this for a long time. She's been kind of in the shadows of Tove Alexandersson. She's always been there. She has won one World Cup round back in Sweden, but she has put in so much work in this terrain, in the Estonian terrain. She's been here for several weeks in between the World Championships, between the World Games as well. And I think it has really, really paid off for Simone Abersold. She was gutted with her race in the long distance, but she has put in the effort to get to know just exactly how you orienteer well in this terrain. And Simone Abersold from Switzerland will be rewarded here. She knows it's good enough. She was the last starter. She will take the European title, her first ever European title. Simone Abersold is the European champion, and it feels like finally for her.
And on every picture you will see from her crossing the finish line, you will have the 3 men as well just beside her, and she's running towards the station to upload the results, just to be sure that there won't be any problems. Because if you think back 4 years, last Middle Eastern's European champs, we had exactly that situation.
She knows she's done it. And a silver medal as well for Eveli Kasuku. She can celebrate in front of a home crowd. What a fantastic run from her, and great to see. You know, I'm sure her preparation will have been years and years in the making. Let's see what Marika Taney can do. We saw a mistake to the 17th control, and it has dropped her down into 4th place. She is outside of the medals. Her and Simone Abersold seeing a lot of each other around that course, but without that mistake, she'd have been in with a bronze medal. It's going to be, I think, even 5th here for Marika Taney. Oh, so tough. And if you make mistakes out here, it's hard to win that time back. She's not managed to do it. It will be outside of the medals for Marika Taney.
But again, a good performance by the 2 Finnish runners, Harju and Taney. They had very strong performances in the long distance. And now again, I mean, they will end up on 3rd and 5th, and well, that's a good result. But back to Abersold, I mean, and Kasuku, I mean, it's for both. It's just when you saw their execution of the legs, it's just, you could see that they had a plan, and they, it just was very accurate orienteering. It was very good orienteering, and well, I mean, we're very close to this 35 minutes predicted, and it's quite a big gap between Abersold and Kasuku, but that's maybe to expect as well, because if you just look at other races when you have the physical performance, usually it is around 1.5 minutes or even more. But it shows that Kasuku really took advantage of the knowledge she has about the terrain and just did a great run today. And it's so nice to see that everything came together today. I mean, if she would have been even more lucky, then she could have won this race, because she did a very clean race, and all the other of the favorites, they did mistakes, but not Simone Abersold.
Not Simone Abersold, no. And that really, I mean, we could tell from the key, this would be the key, even from the middle qualification, the long, you've got to minimize your mistakes, and especially as the terrain changes, you've got to be good in all of it.
Look at this now, how accurate Kasuku is in every control. She took this re-entrance to control 1, she used it to control 2 again. She was very good at this route choice here, both Abersold and Kasuku going there. Harju not having a good route here. Almost cost her the medal. To this 5th control, and then into this second part, the more technical part, in my opinion, and here Abersold just ran away from Kasuku. In this first part here, she was very strong. and very solid. And look at the direction she has to all the controls here. There's no hesitation. It's really a straight line to control 10. And there, in this part, really, you can run a straight line. Here, I was a bit afraid. She was going a lot to the north, but just about exactly at the right time, she turned back to control 12. So here as well, coming back. I mean, there's no... So far, we haven't seen any struggling at all for Abersold, and neither for Kasiku. Just here, maybe a short little problem at control 16. Then here at control 17 is the point where she lost Taini from the group. She was running around away from her. But I mean, it's if you look at this here, you can't do it much better than the two winners, or the winner and the second place. So let's hear from Simona Abersold.
And Simona, very emotional for you. Congratulations on your victory. How are you feeling right now?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great. I mean, when I was in the forest, it went all like planned. It was so smooth and felt like being in the flow. Then I made a mistake. I stood at the wrong control. Luckily, I checked the control number. And then I just didn't get it. And knew that I had to take my time, stand still. See what I did, or like find out where I went, and that's what I did, and then found the control. It was hard to find the flow again, but then it just felt great to finish such a good race with only that one mistake. And yeah, I just heard that last time someone won was Simona in 2012, and it's really cool to make it. It's been a dream for me, and that it works out that well after a long distance that was terrible for me. That's great.
And what have you been doing since the long distance to prepare for this middle distance today?
Yeah, actually my long distance was really good. I kind of found the flow. Then I made a big mistake and knew that it was over. But yeah, there were so many good parts, and I just took the good things with me and tried to avoid mistakes like the last one. And yeah, it worked out really well today. I had a great race plan, and yeah, I'm really happy that it worked out that well.
Yeah, you can see it on your face, smiling so much. Your first individual championship medal, I think. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me. I mean, yeah, as I said, it's been a goal for me to win European champs and world champs since I was really, really small. I always looked up to those champions in Switzerland that ran so well, and in the last years it always worked really well, but there was always that last thing missing for the gold medal, and now it finally worked.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. I mean, you can see all the emotion coming out there, and we were interested to see, did she see that men's control to number 12, and she did, and she managed to check the codes, realise, and then refine the flow again.
It kind of saved her that she found the men's control there, but interesting as well that she could take out so many good things from the long distance, even though she had a big mistake. And maybe there also shout out to the sports psychologist in the Swiss team to get her back and really see the positive things in this run and not focus on the mistake. And yeah, you could see it was very emotional, talking about Simone being the last Swiss to win the long distance, or
well,
to
when
win
you
the
have
European
two top runners in the Swiss team called Simona, I mean, you can see there'll be a lot of expectation on Simona Abersold, just knowing that she's got that, and she's still in tears on here on the podium. She's going to take her very first top of the podium on the European Championships.
Middle distance final in European and Championships.
All right, so 3 different nations on this podium. It's amazing to see that as well.
And for me, it's a bit surprising that it's more emotional for Abersold compared to Kasiku.
But I think she's just, you know, she's only just finished. She's got a lot of emotion.
Such a relief as well. I mean, she's done, as she mentioned, many great performances. That's always, I mean, if you compete against Tove Alexandersson, it's so hard to get
She's been so close so many times.
And very well again from Ben-Lahari as well. Winning the first, the long distance, and then ending up in third here. Great week for her. And very nice for the home crowd here. As I mentioned, I mean, it's a risk she took not starting the long distance, because then you have only one individual race, and she did a great qualification, so she knew that she can tackle this kind of terrain. And but everything paid off.
It really did. The European champion, though, is Switzerland's Simona Abersold. And maybe this means even more because she initially didn't feel confident in this terrain. It's more unfamiliar for her. She wasn't getting good feedback that she was performing well. She came back to Estonia to put even more hours in this forest, and it's really paid off because she managed to solve that puzzle of how do you orienteer in this terrain, how do you win a race in this terrain, and all of that has paid off. This is years in the making, not just the last couple of years or even the last few weeks.
And
it's really years.
Also very impressive to keep cool when you get to the wrong control and you see that when you have in your head that you missed one control with a lot in the long distance beside having a good race. I mean, that's exactly the thing that happens today. She had a good race and then there is a mistake. And it's so easy to get into the same thing again. But she solved it, she kept cool, she relocated, she stayed as long. I mean, you could barely see that she stayed on the GPS, but
it looked
for her,
like a
she must have
30-second
felt.
mistake rather than, you know, like an 8-minute mistake she made. She made in the long distance.
I mean, for her, it must have felt like ages, because in the middle distance you really feel the seconds just tick away. But that was very impressive, how she handled that situation.
Okay, so we can look then. Those are the standings after, of course, the first World Cup round in Borås, and then the two races here so far. The World Champs no longer count for the World Cup standings, so that is how things stand at the moment when you add up all of the points. Interesting, I noticed some of the Norwegians, the top Norwegians, weren't maybe the ones we would expect, as I think a new crop of Norwegians coming through into the top spots, into kind of top 10s, top 20s. But we move on, of course, to the men's race, where we've only got about 25 minutes left until the last starter goes out. And this was a very interesting one in terms of those who made it through the qualification or those who didn't make it through to the qualification. For example, the long distance European champion, Martin Regborn, missed punch in that qualification. He's not there. Elias Kuka, third place in the long distance. He's not there. He was one place outside of qualification, and a couple of the others in the top 10 also not there, but we will have another look at their map. A bit different for the men's here today.
A bit different, but I mean the idea behind the course is quite similar. You have this first control also here, you go into this green area. Try to adapt here in the beginning. It's not very difficult here, but it's the same difficulties as in the women's race. Be careful when you enter the green. And then here again, route choice, not exactly the same route, but quite similar options. You can go to the left, what we have seen was faster in the women's race, or you can go around. I don't think it will pay off, go straight, but maybe sometimes it's a bit different between the women's and men's race, so let's see. Control 8 and 9, you go into this very dark place there. I mean, you don't see a lot when you enter, but you have good help before, so you're quite sure where you enter the green area. So it's not just about luck then. You go into this more open area around control 12, 13, 14. Be careful with direction. We have seen that in the women's race. Even though it seems easy, there are some difficulties. Then control 16, 17, 18. Really be careful. In this area we have seen mistakes. Control 19, in my opinion, a bit more difficult from this direction. You have a possibility to go around to the left. 19, 20, also this one different. You will have some of the tracks from the women's race there as a help towards control 20, so maybe it tracked up a bit, but of course it doesn't help you with the direction to the control. Again, also here in this race, it is a big advantage to be one of the last starters. I mean, the early starters, kind of the water carrier kind of guys for the others.
Taking one for the team.
They have to take one for the team. So we have some big names in the beginning. For example, Kasper Fosser, but it's so hard to be fast in the beginning, and this really is not a total reset after the qualification. You still have this disadvantage if you missed in the qualification, because you have a worse starting position.
Yeah, it's going to track up, especially in those open areas, the later starters. And of the last 12 starters, only 3 of the men finished yesterday's 2 days ago, the long distance. Many of them weren't even entered for the long distance, or didn't start, or mispunched. But we can have a look at some of the those who started early, those who didn't have a good qualification, Magna Daly being one of them, to see where they will end up, because really it's hard for them to do well at this point.
He has knowledge that he had the problems in the qualification, and he also knows about, he will notice that if he doesn't know him beforehand, he will notice on the way to the second control that it's not an advantage to go out first, enter these yellow areas and set the tracks. So it is tough for the early starters.
Yeah, and Magna Daly into the finish is currently in 4th place. So 2 minutes down at this point, and I think we will talk through some of the other leaders. Here's Emil Svensk. He was number 12 starting out there, and of course 5th place in the long distance. He is the European sprint champion.
Maybe, it's not, he didn't start so early, so if you are mid-competition, you also have the women's race before, so it might
he's still in
track
12th place, only 6 places behind Magna Daly, so it's still pretty early.
Yeah, but you have to swim. I think it will track up already after a few runners, but it is early still. It's not an advantage, neither for him, but it gets better and better with every runner, that's for sure.
It really does, and fighting through some of this terrain.
And in this part here, of course, it doesn't matter at all. The starting position here, it's not tracking up. He had a good race.
Yeah, he did have a good race. When he finished, he was in the lead, actually just ahead of Kasper Fosser. We'll get his time as he comes into the finish, but spoiler alert, he's not leading anymore. We've just had a whole group of people into the finish who I'm sure he'll catch up with very, very soon. Kasper Fosser, of course, is another one we were chatting about, 4th place in the long distance, and we've talked so much about Kasper Fosser this season already, and the difficulties he's had, and really fighting back to be able to perform at those sprint world championships and take ultimately the win there in the sprint race.
But I think he has a bit of a similar approach when it comes to orienteering as to Alexanderson. For him, there's only one kind of gear, and it's full speed.
Yeah.
And saw that in the long distance, we saw that also in the middle distance qualifications. It seemed that he overpowered it at some parts from time to time. He did a good long distance, but if you remember back in 2021 last year,
long distance races.
Yeah, he would not have needed to be in top shape to win it. Yesterday, the technical performance was just not good enough.
And he strikes me as well as a bit of an all or nothing runner. He likes to win, or it's not good enough.
It's very often all.
Yes, it is very often all. Already 2 World Champs golds for him, loads more other wins in the World Cup circuit, and we can have a little look. Algirdas Bartkevicius and Johansson here. Anton Johansson is our current leader. Look at that time, 35:57.
Such a talented runner as a junior, and then the first senior years you could see that he is just everything you need to be a top orienteer, but he struggles often with injuries, and it's nice to see him back. It's nice to see him in good shape here, and look at the time, it's 35:57, 2 minutes ahead of Loika Pern.
Yeah, so he caught up Loika Pern, he caught up Algirdas Bartkevicius, and the 3 of them were able to go around together. Let's have a look.
So look at the route choice here, as in the women's race. Many of the top runners go around there to the left. Then into this area here, it's not as crucial from the beginning. You get a bit more time with adapting to this new part, because you have a long leg from 7 to 8 and you can cross this difficult part, so you get an indication there how difficult it is. But you see also here that Johansson, he's just so good in reading the map in high speed and get every single detail there around control 17 and 18.
Maybe a little miss for Foster at 18, but oh goodness me, that is really well done there. Look, it's going to be hard to improve too much on that. Okay, Matthias Kibert, he does start. We know he didn't start the long distance. There's been a bit of a stomach bug going around. He's the world champion. He is the European champion as well. He's so good at these middle distances. But we know there's been that illness going around the Swiss camp. He didn't start the long distance.
Yeah, and he has had both of it. He has both had, most likely had corona and these stomach problems in about 1.5 weeks. So
too is this man, Daniel Hubman, who we're waiting for as well.
But I don't think he had the coronavirus, but he had it very badly with his stomach problems. So it's good to see him at the start line. Let's see if his body is good enough today to have a good performance. I think here we'll see him very soon. Here he is. And that's kind of, it is a terrain that could suit him well. He's very strong working with the compass, having direction, even though you have to adapt and go to the left and to the right every now and then. So this is one of his big skills. And of course, he has the routine as well to perform well here. So also he has been here before at championships in Estonia.
Yeah, he's got 13 world champs and European champs gold medals, 2 of them being in the middle distance. So yeah, he is one maybe when you can't run quite as fast, he's got that time, but you can see he's already down at this point.
See, 53 seconds. It's 106, 107 now. Will be a bit more. Now he's stopping. You can see it now. He has basically it's good to see that he's stopping when he is not getting it in the forest. So I don't think he will do a mistake here, but of course it's the stop and go costs time as well. And that's something that Anton Johansson is very good at.
And Anton Johansson is leading all the split times at this point, even as we're getting quite late into the start list, like Daniel Hubman.
And here is Joey Hadon in the comparison, and he's just off direction here. And here you can see the difference. He's not getting this. He's getting up a little bit off the re-entrant there and just following a bit much to the right and then not having the direction.
Joey Hadon looks like he had a very special race in the long distance. A couple of days ago, I was watching the GPS tracking from home and it just seemed a mistake on every other control and didn't ultimately go around all the controls. But Kenny Kivakas there are 3 Estonians in the last 10 places on this, and he is the first one, 26th place on the long distance.
Struggling a bit here right from the start, but also he had a good qualification. He's kind of the only Estonian that had a good qualification and still decided to run the long distance. But as I mentioned before, the others all had struggled with injuries earlier this year and didn't want to risk anything at the long distance when they have such a good position for the middle distance.
So we're behind Aston Key of Australia, who looked like he was on the edge of some really fantastic performances in sprint races this year, and being less than a minute down at this point is very, very good for the Australian, who you'd imagine to be better in a sprint than in a forest, but really good start for Aston.
And here we have the comparison, Kibbutz, Johansson. Usually it's not a good sign for the one compared with Johansson. It's a bit on the Hadon route, but not really as extreme. But look at it, it's already half a minute at control 1. Of course, there's time left, but we haven't seen Johansson doing a mistake on the whole course, so you have to do it physically to win it back.
Max Petterbeimer then into the second TV split. And again, these TV splits are the same for the men and for the women. And you can look some Swedish domination at this point.
Running together with Olli Oja now. Guess. Aro Aho it is. Waiting soon for Oja now, but he started 2 minutes behind. Beimir.
Oh, you could just see how he's looking around there. And this is the case where you've got your 4 pairs of eyes helping out. You're trying to do your own orienteering, but you're always going to pay a little bit of attention as to what the person next to you is doing. Mathieu Perrin.
Quite a good race, but not really good enough to beat Anton Johansson.
On the stage, another Estonian, Rakvere.
But he's been working hard alongside William Blumenstein there, and will be rewarded with a 3rd place currently.
And Blumenstein into 7th position.
All right then, back at the start with Florian Hovald, who didn't run the long distance. Well, he wasn't due to run the long distance either. He has a bronze medal in the World Champs middle distance back in 2018. That was in Latvia. This is
Olli Ojanaho.
Yep.
On the way to the 2nd TV split, so he's still some time left there. 1 minute behind at this point. There are many runners around 1 minute behind.
And Olli Ojanaho was such a great junior, taking 6 JWOT golds. But now, you know, maybe a bit of a dip when he moved into being a senior. It's so hard to progress and go from being a great junior to being a great senior immediately. It's only people like Kasper Foss who've been able to do it. But he seems to be getting, you know, now reaching kind of maybe having a little bit more of a breakthrough in the last couple of years.
Yeah, but sometimes it's also when the runners really good as juniors. It depends very much on how much they train already as a junior. Because if you train 700 hours a year already as a junior, how could you improve that by very much? But if you build it up very slowly, of course, you might not be as successful at JVOC, but maybe later on. I don't know anything about the training of Ojanaho, but often when you have juniors that are so good in junior level and then have a hard time to improve, then this can be one of the reasons at least.
Okay, so Hadon dropping a little bit more time now between controls 5 and 7. But of course, remember we saw him with that mistake to control number 1 and already down outside the top 20 at this point. Much more kind of closer times in the men's as we would probably expect.
And this is the comparison between Kratov and Johansson. See that, I mean, what we have seen in the women's race, it's not a very, very good option to go this one, but it's not as bad as the red one. So Ben Lahariu, I think, went this way as well. To this control and this route choice. It was about 40 seconds slower. Let's see if it's the same in the men's race, but my feeling is that the blue one still is faster.
Yeah, that's a shame for Kratov. He's such a strong middle distance orienteer, particularly two bronze medals in World Champs, including one in 2017 where it was in Estonia. But now I'm really interested in the two Sild brothers here to see what they can do. They probably won't have heard anything about the success with their teammate, but neither Larry Sild nor Timo Sild started the long distance race. They were due to, and they didn't. They chose to sit it out. So the two brothers, and Larry Sild is the younger of the two. You know, I think they will have a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure maybe after their great qualifications, and they will really want to emulate what Eveli Karsaku did. So we will see what happens. They know how to orienteer on this terrain.
These are the standings. Still Anton Johansson with a big lead over the two French runners, Loïc Caperne and Mathieu Perrin. Quite a good race by the two French runners there. Of course, Caperne maybe with a big of an advantage following Anton Johansson. or at least running together with him. We don't know if he was just following or if he...
All right, Albin Riederfeldt. Say he's one of the forest specialists in the Swedish team. He too didn't. He was never due to run the long distance, so all on the middle for him. And Timo Sild as well. You know, he's had some really great results, kind of around the top 10 in forest races before, but can he make it better again? Can he get on that top 6 podium that we like to talk about? Here is, 2 days ago's a silver medalist, Eskil Shinneberry, but you look, he's lost time throughout the course, especially between 7 and 14.
So the world champion from 2018 in Latvia in the middle distance. But as you mentioned, he lost about a minute. I guess there must have been a mistake there at some point. Now you can see he's not really sure about direction.
Yeah, changes that direction left a lot. Maybe you can see the white hill fairly easily, that he would have looked to his right and seen that, and then into this little re-entrant. So nearly 2 minutes down. Let's have a little look.
I'm seeing Johansson, Ojanau, Shinneberg.
So
maybe we see the mistake.
Track. Yeah.
Looks good so far. We can see him doing a mistake there to control 12 was off direction, following 2 up high. Do another quite big mistake here. Didn't see really the problem, Shinneberg, but I was focusing on him since tracking. And now we're waiting for Alexander Kratov. So let's see now the route choice.
Yeah, he went to the south.
My feeling was that he had a disadvantage already at control 5, just before the long route. So let's see. Soon we'll see the split, I guess, at control 5.
I love these run and cam shots through here. It just shows you how the terrain looks, and then these different pockets of runnability and visibility as well. It's just, it's very, very changeable. I mean, it is very green here, but there are also, there are bits where it's okay, and yeah, down to 13th spots.
On 51, I think he had a disadvantage already at the 5th control, but it wasn't 2 minutes, so he must have lost there. And this is Geburts on the way to the first TV split. My feeling is that he's late as well.
My feeling too, as he started 2 minutes behind
Yes,
Kratov.
indeed. This will be, I mean, it's...
But we saw him a bit not very distinct into control number 1, and he was 28 seconds down. And then he's going to, he lost about 23 seconds that first control, and he's losing more, and you just see the head when it turns, and you kind of know not everything is okay. Just an extra check, stopping and making sure. Oh, and now, especially when there's a camera in your face, this is not fun.
My feeling is that he has to go more to the left, as he's doing now. It's not the most difficult control. It's quite open there, but it's the thing is that right when you enter the forest,
the visibility drops as soon as you're in.
Yeah, and there are some trees lying on the ground, so you kind of want to avoid them, and then you go off direction, and you have to get back there. Otherwise, you can see the control 7 there. You see that on like 5 to 6, Johansson was 14 seconds faster compared to Geburts. Maybe also an indication that Geburts physically not on top today, and Kratov going quite straight there.
Oh, 140 though, lost.
But
for that route choice.
When he goes down there, he should go all the way around and not entering the green in a later thing. Then he could go straight ahead from the beginning.
Mika Kimmela, he was the last of the Finns to go out. He took top 10s in both Forest individual races at Walk-in 2021. 10th last time. Gustav Bergman was 9th on the long distance. And he is missing something, very much like Simona Abersold. He is missing that championship gold. He has, of course, also won World Cup golds before, but they weren't in a championship race.
Yeah,
and
not an individual one.
Not an individual one, of course. He's won relay
Relays
medals,
and
of
mixed
course.
relays and
Many of those.
Yes, he's decided many of the relays, but I mean, he's always kind of a favorite, and you always have the feeling that he's so strong now. His shape is so good when you see him in Scandinavia, and then you go back, and it is the championships. He so far never really got it together, but maybe today. That's what we say every time.
Well, every time he starts, he's in with a chance, and you're right. His form is, he wasn't the best as a junior, but his form has just gradually improved.
He was good as a junior.
Oh, he was still good, but his form has gradually improved. Max Betterbema then will be outside the top 3 at this point, but still a pretty solid run from him here. Not putting too many time losses, especially I think in that second part. And we'll go then into 4th place. But still lots of runners still to go.
Aro Aho from Finland to the finish will be into 11th position. Shared 11th together with Magnadeli.
And then we wait for Olli Ojanaho. Here he is. Here is the other Finn. Where can he end up? Can he end up in a medal position at this point?
He was 1:33 behind at the second TV control. It's increased a little bit.
Almost matching that high speed of Johansson. Olli Ojanaho into a very solid second place there. But I mean, look at that. The run from Johansson was so good. It's still nearly those 2 minutes that his lead at the moment.
In a sprint, he has competed in the European Championships only so far, with the 19th place in the knockout sprint and 44th in a sprint. So today could be the best middle distance result for him. At the World Championships, he was 36 in the middle.
Here we have a comparison between Florian Hovald and Anton Johansson. Quite similar speed here. Quite similar approaches, maybe a bit more straight to control 5, then different exit. And I don't think this will pay off for Hovald, entering at the worst possible position into the green.
He was 4 seconds ahead of Johansson at number 5.
And he will be far off the pace of Johansson. I mean, he will be 1.5. He will lose at around 140, 150 as Kratov earlier. So that's a pity for the Swiss. That's too much of a risk. It's too much of a risk. I mean, it's so...
That path is so close, and it doesn't even go that far away from the line.
I mean, it takes some courage to go that far away from the leg, especially on a course where in many parts straight ahead is good. But I mean, when you see that leg, you could really see the course planner sitting there and trying to find some route choices where it's actually worth to go around. And then you could expect that it's not a too bad thing. But of course, I mean, it's a decision you have to take. And as I mentioned before, the dark green is not exactly the same everywhere. But it's not good at any point.
No, goodness me. Thomas Grivda, we just saw there, who's the last starter. I'd say a little bit more of a sprinter, but of course won his heat. So really managed to figure out how to orienteer well in this terrain. Kenny Kivakas, though, on home soil, he's losing time here already and on his way to control number 7 this first split. And
yeah, that's not really... That won't be it. He's too far off to be really high up in the result list in the end. Even though, of course, he can win back a few positions here if he has a clean race, but he won't get up there and do the same as Eveli Kasiku. But it is the first of 3 Estonians here at the end of the race.
So back behind Aston Key, where was Aston at our first split? He was in 7th place, I think a couple of minutes behind. Has lost a little bit more time.
He was 55 seconds behind. This
Florian
is Florian
Hovald,
Hovald.
let's see the damage then. He was 4 seconds ahead, or just 1 second ahead now, at the
And now he's off.
5th control.
Still some seconds to go to the control. Maybe about 20-25 seconds from here, or from the entrance.
And of course, he won't really know unless he gets caught by anybody that route choice was bad, will he?
I think he gets a feeling that if he gets stuck, that it's at least that it wasn't fast. But of course, he doesn't know how much time he lost. And 1:27, of course, in this position here, he's only in 12th position. But in the finish with 1:27 behind, you're in 2nd position right now.
So we'll see how that race
And I mean, he has
develops.
the speed because he was in front of Anton Johansson in the beginning of the race.
He's just got to keep that flow, keep it going, and especially as it changes, the type of terrain changes and the type of orienteering changes. Eskil Shinneberry then here, he will maybe go into a new 3rd place for the Norwegian silver medal in the long distance. It won't be the medal today, equal 3rd at this point, but a much better long distance from him.
Sølvmedaljvinneren Eskil Skinneberg går på 3. plass, men i dag.
And here we have Lauri Sild as well. He was in contention. He was even in the lead at control 5, but also he not with the best route. And I think it starts to be fair to say that this is the decisive leg here. If you don't get the right route here, then you're quite off the pace already. Even if you execute it well, the other ones, you will lose about 1 minute. Here he is.
There is Larry Sild, but I reckon it was about the same time loss as Hovald
or even bigger.
Yeah. He was so quick towards that the 5th control. He was right up there alongside Anton Johansson, but not with that route choice.
Quite similar position now to Florian Hovald. He's in 12th position at the moment. 1:27 behind. Maybe lost even more. It's quite similar.
Similar, very similar to Hovald.
It's Albin Riedefeld. So he on the way to the first split, and I think this is a better time now because he started right after Lauri Sild, 2 minutes behind. Maybe not the fastest time, but one of the fastest times. Another Swedish runner with a good start here. Well, most likely go in 3rd position. Here he is.
Yeah, there he is. So Sweden 1, 2, and 3.
And
But that's a weird exit direction.
Yeah, I think he will try to run around the green area and not go totally through it. As Anton Johansson did as well. You have keyboards here. As we said before, it's usually not a good sign if you see someone compared to Johansson. You just see the difference in speed here. And then you have the mistake again, but you could also see the difference in the speed in orienteering. Maybe that Kibbutz is not on top physically, but speed he is running at and the orienteering at Anton Johansson is just incredible.
He is absolutely on fire, and I wonder where he caught the other 2 runners, because that'll have given him a lot of confidence to know where he was at there, and then you've got 6 eyes going around together at that particular point. I really wonder where he managed to catch them, but goodness me, that high speed just looking fantastic on the GPS tracking.
And I mean, he's still in the lead at the first TV split. And there are not many runners left, only 2, I guess. Maybe now 4 runners. Timo Sild, Mika Kirmola, Gustav Bergman and Thomas Krifta.
is the leader.
Already 40 men in the finish.
Anton Johansson is going to have a long, nervous wait here, especially as I'm sure he's going to be looking at the tracking and seeing what's going to happen, who can challenge him. But he will have that confidence of knowing he's had a good race all the way around. This looks like Timo Sild, and the direction of approach is good, so we can probably infer a good route choice for him.
Time is off the pace.
Yeah, he was off the pace even at the pre-warning control, which was control number 5, so the one before this one. So 3 runners have started after Timo Sild. His best middle distance was 7th place at the European Championships. That was back in 2014.
And maybe a chance to go in somewhere around 7, 8, 9.
But I think, you know, if we're right and he has taken a good route choice, then, you know, he's going to overtake all of those others that have lost a minute or so from that wrong route choice. So actually, you know, Timo Sild in equal 7th there, alongside Viktor Svensk.
This is Kratov, Alexander Kratov on the way to the second TV split. We saw him earlier in the race, not on the best route. We'll go in somewhere around position 10 maybe. There we have Rolf Street at the moment, 9th position, 3:17 behind. He is punching there into 9th position, 2:56 behind.
Really aggressive running through there. Here's Daniel Hubman into the finish. What has he managed to do today? It will be outside the top 6. Will he get into the top 10 at this point? I think by the time we have some of the faster runners through, it will not be outside of the top 10 for Daniel Hubman. He will not add another medal to his impressive tally. But we know also he hasn't been feeling well the last couple of days. That illness that has kind of pretty much spread its way through half of the Swiss camp.
More than half the Swiss camp,
I would say. I think, yeah, Daniel Hubman and Matthias Kubert's affected.
But his was really lying flat the day of the long distance and also yesterday, so it's very hard if you don't feel on top. It's not only that you can't push your body that much, but it's hard to get a good feeling on this course anyway, and then you add these factors on top and it makes it just difficult. And here we have Kirmula, see who's struggling, and we see Gustav Bergman at a really good position there, kind of the same situation as for Hovald, and then losing a lot of time here.
He was 13 seconds ahead, and it's going to be really, knowing how good Anton Johansson's, the rest of his course was, it's going to be really hard to catch that.
You can tell that Kirmula has lost control here, just turning around the head, trying desperately to get in some features he can navigate with. Now I think he spotted the control, here it is. 26 behind and to 14th position.
But if we look at the big gaps at the finish, you know, there's still things that can be done there. So Gustav Bergman, we know, went straight to this control to number 6. It was not good. He was 13 seconds ahead of the current leader at the control before this one, and this is not good for Gustav.
We expect him to come from the right there through the bushes. This is Ruslan Glibov. Didn't see him so far in the picture, but it's okay.
So if we think we've got Olli Ojanaho in the second silver medal position at the moment at the finish, he won't be quicker. Eskil Shinneberry is in 3rd position at the finish. So
punching into 5th position here. 1:53 behind Anton Johansson, still leading in all of the TV controls.
And I was about to say, we're still waiting for Gustav Bergman, but here he is. And look at the time loss. It will be a minute.
But it's still, I mean, he only lost 55 seconds doing that. It could have been more than a minute. But still, I mean, now he has this 47 seconds, and you were not able to kind of win that back technically, because Anton Johansson had just a very, very good run. This is Kiburz on the way to the second TV split, but we have seen that before. He had not a good start into the race, not a good middle section either.
Yeah,
lost,
that missed the control 10.
3.5 minutes between control 7 and 14, and now struggling again.
Yeah, we know he made that mistake. We could see it on the GPS tracking at control number 10, and just falling back and back in this point.
And it's kind of the same thing for him as for Hoopman. I mean, he has been off both having coronavirus most likely, and then also adding the stomach problems. And I mean, yeah, as we said before, it's not nice because you can't push your body so fast, but it's also not nice because on top you have to focus all the time, and it's as soon as you start to do mistakes, I think it's even harder to keep focus.
We follow Aston Key then into the finish. It looks like it's going to be well into the top 20 at this point. Really great result then for Aston Key. Can't wait to see what he does over the next few years as well, getting more and more experience under his belt. So 19th position for Key at the moment.
Sprint is his best discipline in orienteering sports.
Okay, let's have a look.
Yeah, this is Riedefeld, Ojanau, and Johansson. You can see Johansson choosing this small depression, the hill to navigate with here. Here it's actually quite okay open to control 9. It's not as green as it looks like, or not as dense as it looks like. Now we go well to 10 as well.
Oh, small miss from
11.
Riedefeld, but not too much. Just a little bit further behind.
Good direction to 12. Also from Riedefeld. This is Hovald, Florian Hovald.
If we remember, he was ahead at control number 5 and then did that route choice error, but we saw he had really good speed, so this is good.
Yeah.
But this is the control before, though. This is not the control where we get the time.
No, but if you look on third position, Olli Ojanau 1:33 behind. Takes around, let's say, 35 seconds maybe from one control to the other.
Yeah, look, he's caught up time compared to control number 7 after that route choice. So, you know, he was 1:27 behind. It's such a shame with the route choice there. It's been so decisive for this race.
Heading down here.
Oh.
This is just, you can see here, it's so hard. You can see how he's going down with his head to try to get some features.
And there's so many fallen trees as well.
Bit more to the left, not to the left from this position, more to the right. And now he's doing a mistake.
Oh, not good here. I think he was to the right of the hill.
Yeah.
In the green, you actually don't want to be in the green for this one. You want to be in the whites. And now this is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
You can feel it. And the thing is as well, you don't see the features around. You have all these fallen trees that make it difficult to keep direction.
Shake of the head there.
And you have the cameraman that puts the camera in your face all the time.
This is the worst possible feeling, I think, to be kind of running round in circles and having the camera follow you as well. It's really not very much fun, and he's going to have to try and find something definite to relocate on, because, I mean, just look around. Everything kind of looks the same, but there we go.
Here lost about a minute here.
Yeah, I'd say even more than.
And I mean,
that
could be even a top 5 position he lost there. Let's see here. Well, the mistake will be then at control 18. So this is the comparison between Ojanau, who's in second position, 1:48 behind Johansson in the finish. Hovald here. Oh, it's control 16 is missing.
Yeah.
Just a kind of sliding down too far to the right there.
Yeah, and you just have that direction mistake coming out of control 15. You're not, you know,
And
a
it's
few
not the,
degrees off in your compass.
not the
and
best
that's it.
direction out from the control leader.
No, you've got to try and recover from that one. Here's Albin Riedefeld.
And this is quite an okay time as well. He has one control to go. It's the same situation as for Hovald before, but a better time here.
This is looking pretty good. We saw
Good speed here as well.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
can see it was only 15 seconds at control 5, 16 seconds at control 7. So quite similar speed. Small disadvantage from the beginning, but you can also see that even if he is doing good race, it's hard to win back those 19 seconds because Johansson didn't do any bigger mistakes either. So you really have to do it physically, as it looks, at least from the parts, from the bits we have seen.
Oh, okay.
Now look at this, 6 seconds.
Now you can make a difference. Now he can strike. He'll have no idea what's been going on in the forest ahead of him, but the 6 seconds there. And we look back at the finish. Alexander Kratov from Ukraine into the finish there.
Such a great sportsman, such a great orienteer. Has had a tough time this year, of course. It's for all of the Ukrainian team. I know I talked to him a bit. It was very hard for him to keep focused on the training, especially the first month.
So we'll be top 10. We'll go 1 second slower than Ralph Street. So 9th position for him. Pretty consistent race behind Larry Sild now, who we saw the route choice to number 6. We saw him penalised because of that and dropping more time now here. On his way to control number 16. Should just be in here, yep. So same time as Ralph Street, who we know currently in the finish is 8th.
So still the chance for a quite good result. You see the mistake here. It's just off a little bit of direction, getting into a depression and then not really knowing what to do there.
You've almost got to go into every control with a plan B and a plan C as well. You know, what happens if I'm a little bit too far to the left? What happens if I'm a little bit too far to the right? If I'm too short or too long on the control? Okay, standings then at split 2. We haven't seen everybody through this point yet, but these are the standings. Sweden 1, 2, 3 and 5 at that point. But really looking at Albin Riedefeld, the only one at this point who's being able to challenge Anton Johansson, who is in the lead at the finish.
And we also know that Svensk and Beimer, they dropped down in this final part of the course, being on 6th and 7th position in the finish. So here we see Riedefeld compared to Johansson, and it's a really head-to-head fight here. Bit more straight by Johansson, but faster running here, faster orienteer from
As long as he's distinct at the control, yeah, looks good.
It's hard to say if the GPS is really well positioned, because you can see that they
I think they're about the same. I think that they're off slightly parallel to each other, I think. Oh, they are neck and neck, those two. Oh, nervous times for Anton Johansson, watching his teammates contend, watching the GPS tracking, but actually he's pretty happy there.
And he should be, definitely.
He really should.
Enjoying, of course, who wouldn't be enjoying with such a time?
He really is enjoying that leader's position on the leader's chair, and this is why. Come on, look at this, 1:48 still at that point.
He's looking at the run of Albin Riedefeld, of course.
Yeah, of course. But you know, he knows he had a good run for the rest of the course as well. So he knows it's close, but he knows he's already done a good job, and you can't get too much better. And you know, there's still a lot of controls. There's a lot of green to go through.
But you also know that maybe runnability got a little bit better for Riedefeld in the end of the competition.
That's
here.
true.
Because
Especially
Jonas
going
was
through
quite
the
an
yellow
early
bits.
starter.
Yeah, especially going through the yellow bits, 18 to 19, I think that's going to help a lot, and maybe even towards the 20th control, and then lots of long grass towards the last part as well. So we'll see. Timo Sild, this is control number 15. Again, it looks like I think he took the correct route choice into number 6 on that longer leg. But just, I think, probably not having as high speed as maybe some of the others, losing time here and there. Okay, back to the finish. Here's Ruslan Glebov. It's going to be in the top 10 for him. Just behind his teammates. What, 5 seconds between 2 Ukrainians. And some consistency from there. Matthias Kibert. I mean, we've spoken of his problems with illness in the run-up to this, but there was mistakes as well, most notably to number 10, and then losing other bits of time, I think, here and there as well. He won't be happy with that, but they can't all be your best races. At least that's what I tell myself anyway.
It's a tough day again for the Swiss team. This is Gustav Bergman, and I think this could be quite a good time on the way to the second TV split. So he's 1 control to go, but I don't think he's far off. He's some, let's say, half a minute, a bit more to go from this control before. It was 35 seconds behind at control 14. A little bit better speed between control 7 and 14 in this more open area. Can see quite attacking style here, running and orienteering through the green area. Together with Mika Kirmula.
Yeah, you have to drop down that slope and then just be really direct, and so he was.
Yeah, it was 11 seconds faster just from control 14 to 16.
He's catching time. I think he's on for a medal. What colour will it be? Who knows? But he's certainly going in the right direction. Let's have a look then. Riedefeld and Johansson.
You can see now it's definitely an advantage for Riedefeld. Haven't really seen that bit of for Johansson. Oh, he's going different route. We haven't seen that before. I think it's not too bad, but let's see. Oh, it's good.
If he came up that way first time, I think it was he would get the feedback that there's a good track down there.
Just quite similar, maybe a little bit better.
Because that bit along the edge of the open, that was where it was really good in the terrain. So, whoa, Riedefeld, what can he do? Can he give a cast though into the finish? He's going to be outside the top 10 after really good qualification. He's going to go better though than his long distance result in 26th. He should be pleased with that. In fact, he's never been in the top 15 at a major championships before. Will this be the day he'll be in that top 15? Good performance from him, and we know Larry Sild, Timo Sild, not having the best, having okay races, but not super good like Eveli Karsaku. Will he be the best Estonian today?
Yeah, Kivikas goes into the 12th place, losing 4 minutes, and now Swiss fans will wait for...
May well be his best result at these championships. Florian Howald in here. Oh, he's had a bit of an up and down competition. Was really strong the very, very first half. Looked like he had strong speed as well.
But if he would not have missed that control, we saw him in the picture, then it would have been a really good race here.
I think he would be in a medal spot if it wasn't for that mistake, even with the route choices that he took.
And even with his mistake, it's still a chance for the top 10 here. Just showing how good of a speed he had.
Yeah, so much of that course was done right for me, for Florian Howald. It's just such a shame that there's the route choice and then that mistake that we unfortunately saw on camera, just pushing him down outside the top 6. We have pre-warning for Albin Riedefeld. Here he is. Albin Riedefeld looks surely on for a medal here. He had a big gap at 21.
But this is good enough.
But this is going to be good enough for Albin Riedefeld here.
He's going to be the new European champion.
I think he is very good on it for this one. That route choice as well to number 20. Fantastic stuff. And Riedefeld takes the lead here. Looking good to be the new European champion.
And you mentioned it, I mean, it's not a typical Riedefeld route choice between 19 and 20, but I mean, it just shows you how well prepared he is for this competition. He avoids the green when he gets the chance to, and in the finish, I mean, it's 17 seconds ahead, and I think the gold medal.
I think the gold medal as well. I think there's one man who could possibly challenge, and that is Gustav Bergman, but I think he will end up with a medal, just of what colour?
It will be, I think this last route will be decisive, because I don't think that Gustav will go around.
No.
I have a hard time to see that, and if he can execute this really in an attacking style and don't miss, there might be a chance that he can get close.
Yes, the top two, congratulations there from Anton Johansson to Albin Riedefeld. They have got medals, those two men, and it could very well be Sweden 1, 2, 3 here.
Oh, and think about the relay tomorrow.
Oh, good position, very good position for the relay. After maybe, I actually think in the women's a lot of disappointment for Team Sweden, and usually
it's the other way around.
Usually it's the other way around. It really is. Thomas Krivda then is in 12th position. He is going to be well outside the top 10, I think, by the time it gets to the finish. Well, you never know. There's been a bit of changes in the last section, but I mean, look at that. At the standings in split 2, Sweden have 5 of the top 6 positions at that point. Of course, we know it didn't quite go as well for Emil Svensk in the very, very last part, but we will see what happens. Here's Larry Sild then. And of course, he's going to be cheered home here by all of the home crowd. His older brother is still to go, started 4 minutes after. And he will probably be a little bit better than Kenny Kivikas, so will be the best Estonian so far. But maybe there was a chance of them doing a little bit better, or maybe on their day. But no, 13th place for Larry Sild.
I mean, it's quite a good result, but regarding the qualification they did, you could hope for a little bit more. But I mean, it's a good result. You have him on 13th position. You have Kenny Kivikas on 15th. Might get in Timo Sild somewhere there as well. So if you have 3 Estonian runners in the top 15 or just outside, that's a good result as a team. And that's also a promising relay team then.
Wow, yes, definitely. We have the same arena for all the competitions. It's quite strange. It's quite unique, really. So all the terrain is really quite similar around here.
And let's see here. Now we have them in the picture. Johansson, Riedefeld. This really is the part where Riedefeld got ahead of Johansson. And you see that there's small disadvantage for Bergman in this section. Small mistake there, Johansson.
Yeah, small mistake for Bergman there, just maybe bouncing off the edge of that.
And it's very much depending on how well he gets through the green areas here, Bergman. My guess is that he will go straight ahead. Yes, indeed. But it looks...
Yeah, it looks a solid bronze medal for him.
Yeah, looks very good for the 2 others.
If you think Ojana Ho is currently in the bronze medal position, I think you can't catch up that much. Even if you're Gustav Bergman, he will. That championship title still eludes him. But another really consistent performance. I mean, really, can you say will the gap be as much as that route choice to control number 6, where he went straight?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the point where he lost the gold medal today. I mean, if you look at the part after that, this section, especially the fast section, at control 12, 13, 14, he was really strong there. But of course, I mean, we had one clear route choice, and route choices are a part of the competition as well. So in the end, everything has to get together to win a gold medal, and of course that's the way it should be as well.
Yeah, we saw that in both the races. You have to manage all the different types of terrain. You go, yeah, Estonia is green, but actually not all of it is green. There are actually some very runnable bits in the south part. I really tell you that as well.
Even if they're not that big and they don't appear that often, there are nice bits in this middle distance part.
They really are.
No, it's actually quite a nice map, but it's green and it's perfect for a championship.
I do agree, yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that before. It's not the one you enjoy going out for just an easy orienteering training, but it's definitely worth championships, because if you have this nice terrain where it's easy to get a flow, everyone will handle that in a perfect way. But it's those things where you have to adapt to the terrain, where you have changes in terrain, where you have to change your orienteering technique and adapt it to the course. That's where you get the really interesting courses, and this one was totally worth the European Championships. And of course, if the course is worth a European champion, then also the European champion is worth his medal.
Yeah, it was impressive stuff. Gustav Bergman then in towards the finish. It looks like it's going to be a bronze medal then for Gustav as he runs in here. You can see, yeah, he's already down behind that time of Albin Riederfeld. And for me, it is that route choice. It's that route choice to control number 6 that's cost him a gold medal.
You can see it here.
Result.
It's more than 55 seconds he lost there, and the finish it's
going to be less than 55 seconds. Yeah, but fighting hard as always, looking for the bronze medal. He's going to have a big buffer in the end, and will get that bronze medal. And in a terrain that I thought would maybe be a big leveler across the nations, Sweden have done it.
Yeah, but if you look at the results from the long distance, you had Scandinavian runners all the way from position 1 to like 14. And if you look today, it's only actually the French runners, Loïc Capern and Mathieu Perrin, who made it into, and Florian Hovald made it into the top 10, not coming from Sweden or Finland or Norway. So Scandinavians seem to like this terrain here, and I mean, Loïc Capern, we don't know how much of a part he was together,
an active part he played,
but definitely a very, very well performance by Mathieu Perrin. Made it, as far as I know, more or less all alone into this 8th position.
So I think we will wait for maybe the last starter, Thomas Krivda, into the finish. But
still, the chance for a top 10 here was 2:35 behind in 12th position. In the finish, the time for a top 10 is 3:26 behind Florian Hovald at the moment. So still a chance for him to get into the top 10 here.
But this is, looking at these final kind of stages, and maybe let's go back to something we were talking about earlier. None of our early starters feature in this top 10. If you're looking at Emil Svensk, Kasper Fosse, Magna Daly, none of them in the top 10.
But you can say that it even makes the performance by Anton Johansson more impressive, because even though he wasn't an early starter, he was running in the middle of the competition here, but still, I think with every runner, the track or the course got a little bit faster. Maybe the difference in the end wasn't that big anymore, but definitely more impressive to run fast from a position early out in the race. But at the same time, we've mentioned that before as well, it's not only the final that counts, it's also the qualification. So it's a disadvantage, but it's not unfair.
Well, that's why I like having these qualifications, because it means it's not all based on the world rankings. The start list is based on the qualification, not those world rankings. When we know there are better opportunities for runners from some nations to pick up world ranking points than others. I mean, and some people with, so few races over the past few years hardly have any world ranking
or injuries.
Points. Yeah, exactly.
Here we have the comparison of the 4 fastest runners today. You can see here Gustav Bergman in the lead at control 5, going straight through the green, which costs him the gold medal. All the other 3 runners in the top 4 and all the way around, you could see that Ojenau here actually is almost as fast as Bergman at control 6. And then, of course, he has to first regain this time to be able to be back in the fight. But at this time here, he's almost together or at the same speed as Riedefeld. He did a small mistake there at control 10, just a very small one. Jönsson here very, very fast in this section here.
From Bergman to 13.
Yeah, when they entered this part here, this second half of the course, Jönsson was very good in the beginning of it. And then here, the point where Riedefeld passed Jönsson, he had a small hesitation there just before control 18 as well. And then this one, look at this, control 19. Just running out. We haven't really seen that before, or at least we didn't have it in the GPS. I was thinking about that when I was pre-running, but it's like when you had in mind the green before, in some parts it was quite okay. So if this green would have been as the one at control 18 where they came from, then it would have been faster to go straight. But you have to adapt. I mean, you see how the green is at control 19. You have to adapt, make a short decision, and yeah, make your decision there for the route choice. And now let's hear a bit from the winner from today.
And Albin, congratulations on your victory. Tell us about your race.
It was a very good race. I felt from the beginning that I had really good speed today, but I saw the course and realized that this will be really technical, so some small hesitations, but I managed to avoid the big mistakes, and then in the end just pushing everything I had, so it was a very, very good race.
And how happy were you about the execution of your race? We see a tough terrain, many big runners losing time out there. How were you able to do it so well?
I think I realized that it was going to be tough, so I tried to, like I said, slow down a little bit through the technical parts and take some safe routes around a little bit to just be extra safe. So I think maybe it wasn't the best on each leg, but then in the total I think it was a good strategy.
And did you have a good feeling out there that you could be running for a medal?
Yeah, I felt like it's always hard to say, but I focused on this race for a really long time, and I knew the shape was really good from the qualification, and then I know I can be up there when I have a good race, so yeah.
And this is your first international senior medal at a championship individually. How is that?
I don't know. It's hard to describe. I've been dreaming about this for so many years, and now taking the last step up to the medals, it's amazing.
And 3 Swedes on the podiums today. Why do you think Sweden are so good today?
I think we had really good preparations, and we have pushed each other like in the last sessions here, and also I know this kind of really technical orienteering, it suits us well, both me, Anton and Gustav, so yeah, and then we just had a good day.
And there are relays coming out tomorrow. Do you think we should look out for Team Sweden tomorrow?
No, I don't. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think we will have actually like 2 or 3 really strong teams. So it will be a big fight. But relay is always it's always something special. So we will see.
Thank you and congratulations, Albin.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, always something special. We're really looking forward to that relay. But yeah, the Swedes are prepared well, and you know, Albin Riedefeld, a forest specialist, another kind of forest specialist who he said he's been preparing for this race a long time. It was meant to be initially 2 years ago. He's had 2 extra years of prepreparation, and it's paid off, I think, to have that focus.
And he didn't have to switch from the sprint focus to the forest. That's one factor. He didn't run. He wasn't supposed to run the long distance either. That's another factor. And one thing I noticed, like we had 2 Swedish winners here with Martin Rekborn and Albin Riedefeld, but it's not the ones we had maybe highest up on the list. But it just shows you how good of a team they have. Both, I mean, so far we were often talking about the Swedish women's team, but also the men's team is so strong. And when I think he just named it perfectly there. They're so strong in this technical parts and this execution of this very tricky parts, and that was the key today together with the clear strategy he had, not trying to be the fastest on every leg, but put every leg together and be the fastest on the whole course.
I mean, we talked about this so much during the women's race. It's getting the right balance of the speed and the accuracy, and that is exactly what he did. He was able to maybe hold back on the speed a little bit, and what you lose from that, you gain in the accuracy. Really, I mean, yeah, really strong. That's exactly how you do it, and he's rewarded with being in the top 10 now in the World Cup
with
standings.
One race.
Yeah, exactly, one race. I mean, come on, that's great stuff. And Kasper Foss is still well out and out leading the way with great results in Sweden earlier on. But yeah, not his terrain, really his championships so far for our current leader in the World Cup standings. But yeah, I think we've seen quality orienteering from our two winners today, really, from Albin Riederfeldt and from Simona Abersold, managing all the different parts of the race really well.
Yeah, of course. Both of them had really good races technically. All of the medalists, at least in the men's race, had a very good race technically. Also, Gustav Bergman had a very good race technically, but he missed the route choice, and that was just that one decision, wrong decision too much. It was maybe just one wrong decision, but this just not good enough today.
Yeah, no, so close. It seems like he is for so long, and yeah, we've kind of mentioned that there was so many fantastic Swedish women in the last few years, really kind of, again, like packing out these top places. The men, not seeming to do it quite as much, but now they have that dominance from not just one Swede, but from many.
We have to be fair also to mention that, of course, in the women's class, you might have like 10 runners or 5 to 7 runners who can win a race maybe. In the men's class, I mean, if you look at it, it's really open, and it's so hard to place many of your runners from one national team into this top 3.
And I asked you before the race, who do you think is going to win? And I think you said something like, oh, it's the hardest question ever.
Yeah.
I mean, for the women's race, but even more so for the men's race, where it's so open.
Yeah, I mean, it's very open. My pick was Gustav, but just to add 1 second later, but that's what I pick every race, every mid-distance, and it never pays off. And he's always a good guess, but in the end, so far, there was always the little thing missing to win it.
A little thing. It was a route choice this time. Albin Riederfeldt got it right and had that super high speed through the terrain. Even if he said he was kind of making extra checks, just being really, really comfortable, it meant that he didn't make any mistakes. And then I love that route choice. He was already in the lead at 19, but I love that route choice that he went out to the path. It really, really paid off not going on the red line on that one at all. And he is rewarded. And look how many blue and yellow shirts are on the top of that podium. I think Team Sweden will be having a little bit of a party, and then they've got to select. I don't know if they selected their relay teams already, or if they've got to select their relay teams tonight. But of course, Albin Riederfeldt said it. They'll have 3 top teams racing around there. So can we see? All of those teams doing really, really well. I'm sure we will see. But it's really been a great afternoon full of really, really top orienteering. And I think after the thunderstorms we had just before we came on air, things have kind of managed to hold out ultimately. Fantastic races. It's all Albin Riederfeldt and Simona Abersold crowned the champions. Tomorrow it's the turn of the relay. We'll be back at this same arena, back in this green terrain. Who will take the medals? We will wait and see.
Bye-bye. like 2 races out of nowhere, and he's like really good again. It's like, how do you do that?
I'm just going to leave my stuff in here for a while, or maybe I can